Big Sky howdy, and welcome back to another installment of the Glagg saga on World Bigfoot Radio with your host, the Duke, and obviously our guest, Kevin. And before we get on to the show here, I'd like to first do a big shout-out to Shirley, who's going to be having some rather drastic medical procedures done here shortly. And didn't really ask for it, but if all you listeners out there would be kind enough to pray for her so that she makes it through. I hate to see any watchers or listeners of this show or subscribers having a tough time of it. And so keep them in your prayers. If you're a religious person, you pray. Keep them in your prayers. Keep Shirley in your prayers. And big shout out to Shirley. And just to let you know, Shirley, we will be doing that show that you suggested, so you can look forward to seeing that in the future here.
We'll definitely keep Shirley on my prayer list.
Definitely. Thanks, brother. And here's Kevin again. And Kevin, have you got any viewer mail questions that you wanted to answer before we get along with what we're going to be talking about tonight?
I haven't got a chance to look over many more. I'd had a kind of a long weekend, and we talked about that. Is there any that you could think of with what happened this weekend? I haven't had a chance to look over.
Yeah, well, the ones that I just read you earlier tonight, and it's a lot of it's covering the same sort of ground. They're mainly a couple people have asked for a more like really in-depth description of Glagg, and it's like, well, didn't you listen to this show so far? Honestly, I don't know how much more in-depth of a description that you could give of him.
Well, I can try.
You could go ahead.
Mercy. You know, you think, oh yeah, it's easy to describe until you're sitting right here trying to describe it, and then it's like, man, well, there's a lot of typical, pictures and artist renderings, like the Patty style, but, almost that reddish-brown color. That was his coloring, was that kind of reddish-brown, but maybe a little bit darker, but his skin color was kind of, dark gray. I think Patty's was a little bit darker underneath of her hair. But he didn't have, the pointy head, this sagittal. His was more human-looking head shape, not, pointy in the back, not kind of cone or however you want to say it.
Oblong or Paracasoli or anything like that.
Yeah, his was very human-looking. And although he had, the large jaw, but he was a perfect cross between a Patty type and, there's some of the adult, or more, it's not kids, not adult, but, more geared towards adults playing video games out there, like, off the top of my head, like StarCraft, some of the Space Marines, the big tough guys, chewing on a cigar, just that big buff, chiseled features. Cross a guy that looked like that with Patty. So, not a chimp style nose or an ape style nose. He had the traditional boxer nose, big square jaw, and his eyes were really wide apart and deep set, but his forehead, yes, was a big, huge, large brow, but it wasn't on him. It wasn't disproportionate looking. It didn't look, he did not look ape at all to me. The only thing that was apish about him was he was covered from head to toe with hair, not fur, hair. Yeah. Like mine and your hair, it's just everywhere. It's just a lot thicker, on his body. But, and I think I've said before, his eyes were black. Never saw any whites. But you could tell where he was looking, even though, he didn't have a white of an eye. There was a lighter and darker black, if that makes any sense. But, you could always tell where he was looking, if he was looking right at you or looking past you. And, I'd like to have there's that one lady that everybody talks about that's the artist that...
Billy Irwin.
Yeah, I would love to be able to talk to her.
Yeah, she did the drawing of Kihosa for Cat. We just did an episode here a little bit ago with Cat talking about her interactions with her troop of Bigfoot and their leader, Kihosa. from the time she was like 5 years old.
And I just found out about that and haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, dadgummit.
Which dates when this recording was made by the time you guys hear it. So anyway, yes, I am working way far in distant points of the timescape compared to where the listeners actually are. But anyway, to get back to you, the other things that keep popping up are mostly questions about the woo. Did you ever see him like turn invisible? Was there any hint that he had any kind of psychic or mental powers? Was there any telepathy? Could he mind speak sentences to you? Anything
like I've said on the other stuff like that, not that I saw, but there again, I'm not discounting it. Remember, I met him when he was very young. He might, if they do have those sort of powers, I've never seen it, but remember, I met him when he was very young, and he was by himself. So if they do have that type of abilities, he might not have been able or might not have learned it yet.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that, if you're not around him a lot, that could be misconstrued is some of the woo is their natural abilities. I can't stress that enough. His ability to blend in to the natural environment was phenomenal. I mean, I could be watching where he went into the trees and watch him I'd lose sight of him, watching where he went. And it's not that he was, disappearing. It's
that he was just walking into the woods.
And like I said on the last episode, when we were walking along, when we were just out exploring or goofing off, and he would stop, and I would run right into the back of him because I didn't realize he had stopped because I didn't see him. And boom, right there he is. And I was always like, "What are you doing?" And he'd,
everybody's going to ask, well, how can you not see a 600-pound Sasquatch that you just walked into the butt of,
Because I'm walking up a hill or through the trees, trying to walk, stay upright and looking around at stuff, not paying attention. I know where he's going. It's like when you're following somebody down a trail. Are you always staring right at their back? No, you know they're right in front of you. You're following them, but you're not paying attention to exactly how close to them you are. But, out of your peripheral, you could see when they stop, and, you would stop. I just, if I wasn't paying direct attention to him, I would lose sight of him.
Not even notice that he stopped.
Did he stop? And more times than I can count, he would do that on purpose because he'd know that I wasn't paying that close of attention, and then he'd stop. Because remember, I told you by that time his butt crack was right at about face level.
And you also mentioned the slapstick nature of Bigfoot humor. So, that totally makes perfect sense. Go back to 1920s and 30s movies, and that's Bigfoot's sense of humor. So, now the other thing that comes up here that you didn't get to spend very much time on was and we've actually talked about this off air a little bit, is about the climbing ability. Can you talk a little bit about the climbing ability that Glagg showed you?
What do you want to know? He's the best climber I've ever seen. I know.
Well, just generally, how do they do it? Does he climb like a human? Does he swing over, arm for arm, branch to branch? What kind of climbing stuff does he do?
I never saw the Tarzan type stuff.
Yeah,
remember, it was pine forest. It wasn't the same type of forest where you could go from tree to tree like that. But it was, he used his feet a lot. But when he was going up, it was more just, like if you're on a rope and you muscle your way up hand over hand. He was branch to branch, and it was more focused on his hands, going up. And if you got a foothold, but. His feet helped also, but it was more just muscling your way up. But him, it wasn't muscling his way up. It was effortless. And for him to pull that big old huge frame up a tree and quick. I mean,
effortlessing his way up. Okay, got it. Yeah, well, with their tremendous, gigantic upper body, that really doesn't surprise me that much. I mean, at one point when I was doing a lot of lifting, and I was way more excessively stronger than I really needed to be, and I could, like do pull-ups with my body weight really easily, in fact, to the point where I could grab onto a ledge that was above my head and like literally fling myself up and land on my feet.
Yeah. Well, when I was
if a human can do that, God, yeah, I could definitely see a Bigfoot doing it.
When I was powerlifting, we would do pull-ups and chin-ups with 95 pounds hanging from our waist. Have your weight belt, and then you'd hang a 45 and a 35 or two 45s, and you'd do pull-ups with an extra 100 pounds or 60 pounds hanging off of you.
Yep.
So yeah, and I was never able to climb a rope when I was a kid. The way they wrap their feet around it, and
I never could do that either.
I always just had to muscle my way up.
I was so happy when I got to be older and I actually built up my upper body enough that I didn't even care if I needed. It was the same thing as a Bigfoot. I basically didn't need my feet. I could do like that Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon thing, where he's got his legs wrapped around the rope but straight out, and he's pulling himself up just with his upper body.
Yep, that's how I had to climb a rope, was just muscle my way up.
Well, interesting. So you've seen him do basically that sort of thing, and that kind of doesn't surprise me. What is just what proportion of time did he spend, doing that sort of thing, and did it really? What was the limit on how big or small the trees he was climbing around in? I mean, when he got really big, obviously there were some trees that were too small to hold him.
Yeah, because remember when we first met, I was up in trees a lot. It's because of what I was doing. So there was a lot of time that would find a tree to climb and then get up there and sit up in a tree. And it wasn't always sitting down on the ground or down in the little, not really, the depression, that little tight, the small cave. There's a lot of times that we'd be sitting up in a tree, and it was cool, because he could get you up way higher than I would ever want to go, a lot quicker than I ever could, and getting up into a tree that, I would need a rope and, some climbing spikes and stuff to get up. It'd just lift me up and push me up to the branches and then push me up to where I could get up in there. On some of the trees that, didn't have a way for me to get up, I did have a way up. But it was just cool to go up. I loved going up in the trees and just looking out over, the valley or over the mountains, depending on where we were. But just the scenery was just, a pristine wilderness.
Yeah.
Back in the backcountry.
It's amazing enough when you're on the ground and you got some trees in your way, but if you're up on top of one of them, it's unbelievable. It's almost like being a plane flying over.
Yes. That brings up some other interesting things that I had witnessed and had heard about because of being right on the edge of the backcountry. And a huge thing was, people going into the backcountry to hunt and stuff. You could either go in by helicopter or airplane if there's an airstrip, or jet boat, or horseback, or mule, or walk. You couldn't even take a bike back into the backcountry, but those were the ways you could. On the places that had property back there's a lot of ranches back there that worked as hunting camps during hunting season. And there's several that were dude ranches in the summer, really nice places, expensive, but they had to take a jet boat ride up the river, or go at the headwaters and float down, on a rafting trip, or hike or ride a horse back in. Not many people rode horses. Not many people hiked. It was, probably the main ranch back there that a lot of people went to. It would probably be a 2-week hike if you were hoofing it. But, knowing somebody that was a backcountry pilot and getting to go up every once in a while, especially, in the wintertime when you see stuff that didn't make sense in the snow, that was kind of interesting. And it didn't make sense until later as to what was causing, should I go into that?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, just for instance, way back in the backcountry that, the closest road is, 75 to 80 miles away as the crow flies, which would actually be land miles, 110, 120 miles away because over ridges and up valleys and stuff. But in the middle of wintertime, when there's 6 or 7 feet of snow on that meadow, and seeing the meadow, is bigger than a football field, some bigger, some smaller, but seeing a meadow that size and seeing the snow tore up so bad that dirt is scattered around. If a herd of elk or deer walked through there, they wouldn't cut the ground up that much. What was cutting the ground up so much?
I mean, that's like up over your head, folks.
Yes.
6 or 7 feet of snow, you know. A lot of snow to go somewhere.
There was a place that we used to go on our snow machines. It was a huge meadow, and the thing was, you couldn't drop below about 50 miles an hour or you would sink, and it would take you 2 to 3 hours to dig your way back out because you had to pack down by foot a ramp where your sled sunk into the snow. You would have to make a ramp by foot, packing it down over and over and over to build you a ramp to get back up out of there, and have to build up enough speed to get back up on top of the powder and stay on it. That was the trick. It was fun to see how much cojones you had to see if you could run from one end of the meadow to the other, and it was long, and you had to keep the throttle wide open or you would sink, 6 or 7 feet down. There was more than one sled left up there for the rest of the winter, and people would have to go retrieve it in the spring.
Yeah.
And so the snow is that deep, and there is something, I've seen tracks where herds of deer have walked through a meadow, from the air, and you can tell that the snow's all tracked up, but it's not tore up like that did. I think it was 2 or 3 times I'd seen that. And I asked my friend what it was, and he'd just always say, oh, it was a big herd of elk went through there. And I'm like, but that's what that one back there looked like. That looks totally different. But I never pushed it. And now, knowing what I know now, I think I know what it was. I think it was probably 2 big males having a fight. That's just my opinion, but
could be boulder grizzlies, those mysterious boulder grizzlies we keep.
Yeah, or them timber apes.
Timber apes, them dark timber apes, or it could be just some mountain giants having a wrestling match. That would pretty much tear up a clearing.
Yeah, something. It just didn't make sense because I've seen where a herd of elk has walked through, and it's not cut up and have chunks of dirt laying up on top of the snow.
Was there any evidence of any mechanization there? Like there was a secret military winter maneuver they didn't tell us about, and they just flattened everything in this clearing for a couple of days or something.
Not that I saw, not putting it past them, but there was. Yeah, I don't know if I want to say that, but yeah, I saw military activity where it should have never been.
Well,
I'll just leave it at that.
We're just, I'm saying is, anything seemingly connected to this weird incident where you've got this whole clearing where it's 6 feet of snow gone, dirt ripped up, and that would be the only thing I could think of to account for something like that. It just doesn't sound something like, unless there's secretly gigantic herds of bison up there or something that we don't know about, which I'm sure
there is bison, but not in the mountains like that. There is, the elk and stuff stay up there, but they always stay in the trees. When it gets that deep, they don't go out into the meadows because they sink.
Yeah.
And so they stay away from the meadows. It was one of them anomalies that, that old song from back in the 80s, things that make you go,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we get, me and Wes and Brett and then a bunch of other people that do these sort of shows get these kind of weird things that come in every so often, and some of it might be Bigfoot related, and some of it might not be. We just don't know. But unless people tell us these things, we don't have the information. So to me, it's always really interesting to hear about this stuff, whether it's directly Bigfoot related or not. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, here's another weird anomaly. It keeps popping up out in the wilderness that now people are reporting. So it's it's always interesting to me.
I was never able to drop down and look and see what type of prints they were. Remember, I was. At the time, it's several hundred feet above it or more in a little airplane.
Well, even so, I mean, at that height, if there is anything like with wheels, like some kind of a wheeled vehicle or something, you would be able to see the tracks of that.
Yeah, but if it was something with skids, maybe possibly not. And with how it was tore up, something could have landed, something like that could have landed there, and I would have never seen it. Or they could have covered their tracks too, but I never saw that. I don't want to speculate, but
yeah. But again, no matter what, that's just not natural and really weird, and given sort of the area, the general area, it's in Idaho. any kind of weird thing could be happening out there. There's a whole lot of middle of nowhere in Idaho, really.
Yeah, well, and that brings up an interesting thing is in the middle of hunting season, you'd get fighter jets coming over doing the terrain following, and they'd always, if you ever talked to them at the air base in Idaho, which was Mountain Home, and, what are you guys doing in the backcountry, 100 feet off the top of the trees following, the contour of the land, that they have a radar system that allows their plane to do that, but, testing it in the daylight, so if anything happens at night, the plane, can fly itself. If anything happens to that, it's just getting the pilot used to the plane following the contour of the land below it. But, in the middle of winter during hunting season, they're doing that type of training. And it, more than once when you're up on top of a ridge and they come out of nowhere, an F-16 roll you off the top of the hill, just come right over your head, at 600 miles an hour, 50 feet off the deck and just blow you off the top of the hill.
Nice.
But, were they really just testing that, or were they looking for something? Again, I don't want to speculate. It's just one of them things that was weird.
No, they were just using you for practice. They wanted to freak you out.
Yep.
So they wanted you to soil your loincloth, so they decided that would be fair, I guess.
Well, joke's on them. I don't wear underwear.
Ha, ha, ha.
Sorry, that was just
not soiling your armor. Not happening. He ain't soiling his armor. Okay, so anyway, getting seriously, and I think that really the only thing I wanted to bring up other than that, the question about the supernatural powers comes from another person that's probably going to be on the show here in the future, Bigfoot in Germany. And the area he's investigating over there has a bunch of weird paranormal stuff going on. And he does not think that it's actually Bigfoot, even though it seems to be going on in conjunction with the same area as Bigfoot's in. And a lot of the same, general Bigfoot activity seems to also be accompanied by it. And he thinks that there's like some sort of entities or something that are attaching themselves to the Bigfoot that are over in this particular area and are following them around. And that's what he keeps running into, in addition to the Bigfoot stuff that he's dealing with. And he loves your show, by the way, and he's really a huge listener of this one. And what fascinates him is that there's no connection to anything paranormal, supernatural with Glagg. So either he's too young and doesn't have the family with him, either doesn't have the ability to do it yet or hasn't been trained to, or never will have any ability, training or not. And, here's him, and he's dealing with this other thing going on. And he said it's kind of a relief for me because I don't think it's Bigfoot doing it in the first place, that there's something else happening here. There's some, these other entities that are following these Bigfoot around or what are doing all this other stuff.
Well, that what you were going to try to do with Cat and
we'll save that for later.
No.
That's not the exact same topic because Cat's been saying for a long time that there's things that are like parasitic entities that like to attach themselves to Bigfoot and follow them around, just like, entities will try and attach themselves to humans and follow them around and make their lives difficult.
That to me, that's terrifying. Because, so many people don't believe that there is the bad stuff out there that does that, and it's like there is bad stuff out there. That's scary.
Well, sorry, that's the way our universe is set up. It's like bears, There's these cute panda bear looking things. There's also these not so cute grizzly bears. They're both bears.
Yep. They can both tear you apart.
Yep. So, we'll get onto that subject soon enough the next time we have Cat on.
I hope I didn't no spoiler alerts.
No, that's
Sorry.
okay, because it's actually going to be Cat and Dave the Deliverer, Dave the Exorcist is going to be coming back. It's going to be a panel discussion with those two.
I can't wait for that.
About Bigfoot and woo-woo, so everybody can look forward to hearing what they had to say about it.
And just got to say it, just with my situation being so unique, it could have been that if they do have that type of ability, I never saw it because he was so young.
Yeah.
You know, and got taken away from his mother and father taken away from him, and didn't ever have the chance to learn like other young ones did, if it does happen.
Yeah, it'd be like a Bigfoot that's observing humans going, "Oh, you never hung around with any human. Did you ever see that human type on a keyboard?" Well, no.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Type on a keyboard. If you actually hung around with a human, you would have seen them type on a keyboard. They do that all the time. They got little dinky ones they carry around with them.
Exactly. So look at it from that standpoint. If you have text to speech and you never type on it, does that mean you're not? Yeah. But yeah, I never saw it. Anything else that you can think of?
No, I think that's about it. I think the next topic of discussion before we continue on chronologically here is something that you didn't touch on the first pass through here. It actually happened by the time you got to the beginning of the series, and that was the whole gun thing.
Yeah.
You mentioned briefly that you had shown him a picture of various guns at one point, and when he saw one, he kind of crumpled it up or whatever. And
Now that I knew I needed, because of what had happened, I needed to get him familiar with it, and wanted to do it as gently as possible, so eventually, he doesn't come across somebody that has one that points it at him and shoots him, just like that. But I wanted to give him, how do you explain what I was thinking? I wanted to give him a healthy respect and fear of him, but show him that it wasn't, the gun's not bad. You can cuss that gun all day long.
And fear for it already. That's the question that keeps coming up. You had communication with him. Did he ever talk to you about what killed his parents, or who, or what kind of gun?
Not like that, but whenever it was me that would mention it. So after showing him pictures and trying to explain, the gun's not bad. Yes, this is what did it, but you can explain to somebody, you can cuss at that gun all day long, and that gun isn't going to do a thing. You can yell at it, you can scream at it, you can call it all sorts of dirty names, and that gun isn't going to do a thing until somebody picks it up. That gun is never going to do anything. The gun's not bad. Guns don't kill people. People kill people with a gun. It's not the gun's fault. If you take guns away, guess what? They're going to kill somebody with something other than a gun. It's people are the bad thing. And trying to get that across to him, and eventually I brought up, now I went to a couple, just the small town auctions, and I bought the biggest piece of junk 410 shotgun, just a single shot 410. And that's what I wanted to use to introduce him to it. In case decided to destroy it, it wouldn't be, my hunting rifle.
Very much, right?
Yeah, and I got this piece of crap that had a broken trigger that cost me $35, which, for me as a kid, that was, doesn't seem like much, but that was a lot of money, especially for something that I thought was going to probably get destroyed. But it was important enough to me to show him what it was. And, does that make sense? It was important enough for me to show him it with me being the one showing it to him, not somebody aiming it at him and pulling the trigger like they did on his parents. And so after many pictures, and then again, like I told you, I'd taken up, my little Walkman, and that was a chore because I had to take a speaker apart. There wasn't like a Bluetooth speaker, but I went to the shooting range with that 410 and recorded, taken a couple shots with it, and, made a speaker out of, a little tweeter out of a stereo speaker, something that I could take, and I made the wires.
Speaker,
a little, pre-Bluetooth, but, all that was the crappy headphones. But I
used to rig
I
stuff like that, too.
I used to, see, I'm not the only one. High-tech, said Nick. When I eventually took it up.
Why do you think they built those things? Because we idiots were fabricating stuff like that for years, and they're like, oh, there's a market here.
That's a good idea. If we make this, they'll buy it from us instead of have to tear, Grandma's stereo apart and make it. We could make some money. How come my stereo doesn't sound as good as it used to? I don't know, Grandma.
We could get some speaker or something.
Yeah, I think you need to buy a new set of speakers for it.
I hate to keep interrupting you or something, but I'll forget otherwise, and this is actually an important point. You had a Walkman out there that's battery operated.
Yes.
And did it function properly in his presence? Like when he was close to it, did the batteries abruptly die or anything?
You know, excellent question. No. But
Thank you.
there again, that might be, again, where he was young enough. If they do have the ability to do that, he might have been young enough and hadn't learned it yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but no, it worked fine. But, you know, AA batteries, it took 4 of them, and they didn't last very long as it was. And rechargeables were pretty much worthless at the time. Yeah, I had rechargeables, but, you know, they were garbage. And, you know, technology was not days, like it is now.
It made more sense economically to buy throwaway batteries than it did to get buy rechargeables just because they didn't work that well.
And the charge station was, you know, ridiculous. And you charge them overnight to get 20 minutes worth of time out of them.
Yeah, so totally not worth it.
Yeah, but so I did that a couple times, and you know, it's not the same as the actual gunshot, but it could go pretty loud, and it always made him nervous and upset. Not like, and that caused me a lot of concern was when he got upset. But
did he have temper issues?
What?
Did he have temper issues? Did it seem to you like he had a short fuse?
Well, yeah, we covered that before. When he'd get frustrated, it was very quick that he'd get frustrated and it'd come to, you know, when I'd have to tell him, okay, let me do it. You know, like when the fire, when he'd get frustrated real quick. But there again, with, you know, him being my buddy, when I'd notice he was getting frustrated, he would, you know, we were good enough friends, I think, that, you know, when I would tell him, let me do it, I think he recognized that, you know, if that makes sense. He would always calm down because, you know, I let you try. You know, we'll try it again next time.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's just get it going this time, and, you know, we'll try again next time. And it was always, you know, it's not your fault, bud. It's just your hand. You're just, you know, I'd always, you know, put my hand up next to his. It's just you're so big. They just don't make your size, you know, Bic lighter.
Yeah.
They didn't make a flint and steel your size. I did in middle shop in high school. I did try to make a dagger for him, a knife, so he could cut stuff up. But when I saw him rip the front shoulder off of a deer, I figured he didn't need a knife.
Good point. Yeah, good thing you didn't teach him how to throw a dagger or anything either. That was probably good enough for the mold that he did.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, you know, maybe if I made a knife, you know, big enough for him to hold, that he could, you know, teach him how to gut a deer, and then it's like, no, I didn't need it. It didn't care.
Yeah.
It grab and rip.
It made the peel apart easy, see?
Yep. Can you imagine somebody, if I did actually complete one and take it to him, somebody'd see a Sasquatch up there carrying a big old huge knife, telling you to get off, to leave?
Never go back again. Never, ever.
Yeah,
well,
good.
So...
Well, and then when I eventually took it up there, the gun, and then I had the shells, and I had them separate. And I got him to, you know, told him, you know, just don't be afraid. This isn't going to hurt you. And I was holding it and rolling it around and looking at it. And then I told him, you know, don't look in this end, in the end of the barrel. You know, don't, you know, stay away from that end. That's the end that causes the harm. This end right here. And then I showed him the bullet. You know, even though it was a you know, a shotgun, but it was a .410 slug, which isn't really a slug at all, but that's beside the point. But then I showed him that you put this in here. How do I explain that? And then had him stand off over there, and I aimed it at a big fir tree, and then showed him how to cup his hands over his ears, plug them, and told him it's going to make a loud boom. And then I'd play the cassette tape and the boom, and then had him, and then I pulled the trigger, and then he right on the verge of freaking out when he actually heard the actual rifle shot. But with all the work that I'd done, it wasn't just one trip. This was work that I had been doing about this issue for weeks and weeks, and leading up to it and talking about it, and then letting it go, and then bringing it back up, and then bringing up pictures again after he had wadded up the one. Then I'd bring another picture of guns. And I always had my pistol, and I'd always tell him, this is the same thing. But I don't think he'd ever, when whatever it was that happened, I don't think he associated the pistol with it, because he never had a problem with the pistol. It was always the picture of a rifle.
Right.
And then, it eventually got to, we put the gun down over there, and then we walked over to the tree, and I showed him where the slug hit. And I said, see, this is what does it. It's not the gun, it's this, and the bullet in it, trying to get across to him that it's not the gun. It's the person that's holding the gun that's gonna, that did that. It wasn't the gun, it was the person. And I think he understood. I think he got it, because it was, never did like, rifles. My pistol didn't bother him that much. He did when he finally actually heard me take a shot with it. It was surprising, but, I think that, I don't know how I came up with, the system that I did to break it to him, but I think I did it the right way because he was able to handle it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I broke it to him gently over weeks and weeks and weeks, and then I'd let it go, and then I'd bring it back up again, and then I'd let it go, and I'd bring it back up again, and every time I'd press it a little more when I brought it back up again, until that time that I found that 410, and luckily he didn't. He got to where he would hold it. I let him hold it. He held it, and whenever he'd start to look down the barrel of it, I'd tell him, no, that's where this comes out of.
That's the business end. Don't look at it.
Yeah. And I took the slugs apart, and I showed him the parts of it. Whether I think he got it. I said, this goes in here. When you pull the trigger, this comes shooting out that end, and it's this that does the problem, and it's the person. It's not the gun. The gun's not the problem, it's the person, and that's what I always tried to get across, is it's the people that are bad. And I think you got it, because
I don't know how much utility that would have for him beyond the fact that, he can identify any human with a long rifle as a potential threat, which is really handy to know. But it's like, that still leaves you to wonder if the person with the rifle is somebody that you can trust won't shoot you, and so you can't trust any of them. Yeah, you got to stay away from them. I mean, the only thing you gain really there is that humans aren't all automatically bad, and you can't blame all the other humans for the bad ones that shot your parents.
Yeah, that's what I tried to get across. Now, if they aim this at you, hide. Duck. Don't let them. If they aim the gun at you, then run. Mm-hmm. If they ever see you and they have a gun, don't stand there. Get away. If they're going to aim that at you, that's what does the damage. If they're not aiming a gun at you, they might not be bad, but just stay away from people.
Yeah. Well, even having the concept that when they point the business end of the gun at you is when you have to worry. With their reflexes, I mean, if you were aiming the gun at him and he decided to jump out of the way, you probably wouldn't hit him.
Yeah, well, you could pull the trigger and he would. There's that one movie a long time ago.
But they're so fast, if he decided to move, by the time your reflex to pull the trigger happened, he wouldn't be in front of the barrel anymore.
Yeah. Well, even with him being so massive, you would have to aim. You'd have to lead the target, know to lead it, and yeah, well, it's the only reason you would hit him is if he moved was just because he's so massive.
Mm-hmm.
But just don't get it to that position to where they have the ability to point the gun at you. Stay away from them. Don't let them see you.
Well, I really appreciate the fact that you actually went through all the time and effort to teach him that, because, you know, having a potentially homicidal Bigfoot running around the mountains hating on all humans isn't a good thing.
Well, I didn't want him to, you know, see somebody with a gun and instantly go after him.
Right,
I didn't
exactly.
want that. That's what I would think I was smart enough to realize that, you know, I knew how strong he was. I knew what he could and couldn't do, and if he got ticked at you because you've got a gun, there, you know, that's it. Now, I didn't want that. I didn't want him to get that reputation or to get, you know, possibly somebody hunting him down because of something like that. Just avoid people, especially the ones that have a gun. You know, I told him I have a gun, but I'm not bad. I didn't try to shoot you. I said, yeah, this is for protection, and this is for food. You know, this is for, you know, the bear or the mountain lion or the bobcat or, you know, other people. If it comes down to that.
Right, that's another thing that comes into the equation too. As far as you're concerned, you're having to go a lot further out into the dangerous woods to go visit him now. And
yes.
We're talking about areas that do have mountain lions and timber wolves and grizzly bears, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, you kind of really need to have a weapon with you, or you're really risking your life, frankly.
Yes, yes.
So, you know.
And that's why I always, at the very least, had my pistol with me, one of them. Usually there was at least one, but there's usually my revolver and my automatic, one of my automatics. So I got a backup. And it wasn't because of them. It was because of, you know, the brown bear or the mountain lion. I don't know if you've ever been in a ravine and 60 to 70 yards straight above you, you hear a mountain lion scream. That is the most hair-raising, eerie sound and terrifying sound you can ever hear, is hearing a mountain lion scream and knowing it's up above you. That's why I carried a gun with me, and why I still carry a gun when I go into the out of doors.
Yep. I've been stalked by the supposedly harmless North American black bear 3 times, and twice by one that was a little bit over 700 pounds and was definitely intent on killing me. So, yeah, kind of know what you're talking about there.
Yes. So, you know, after that, and that was all before we ever moved him further back in. Got him to where he was maybe not comfortable with it, but where he accepted that. And there was a few times that I took, you know, during hunting season, I did take a rifle with me.
Did he ever make the connection that the free food that you sometimes showed up with was a result of you having a gun and blasting it?
Yes. I always showed him the bullet hole. You know, in the beginning it was the arrow, and a lot of times he saw that. But yes, I did show him the bullet hole, and, you know, it was this that got it. This is what that did, and that's how all of that combined is what I think allowed him to accept. That,
yeah, you know, we can't chase and catch a deer. We can't throw a rock and club an elk with it. We're puny and pitiful. We need to have these things to get any food, and we have to have them to defend ourselves from things that want to make us food. So.
Yeah, and that's something that I did was I showed him a rock. I said, pick that up. I pointed at, you know, grab that rock for me, Glagg. And he grabbed it and picked it up, you know, one-handed. And I said, put it down. And then I reached down to grab it with both hands. And it was all I could do to get it up off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And it's stuff like that I was showing him. That's why I have this. You're so much stronger than me. This is what protects me. You have your strength and your natural abilities. This is what I have to do to keep me safe when you're not around. And so, you know, like I said, that I don't know how I thought of stuff like that. It's just being raised, you know, in the country, not a city kid. And being raised with morals, I think is the word I'm looking for. You know, how to treat each other, and, you know, I don't know why it worked, but it worked. If that makes sense.
Well, I'm glad you went to all that extra difficulty teaching them that. I mean, not only for your own safety, but for everybody else's. And make them realize that this is just like a tool that us pitiful humans have to carry around with us. When we're out where he normally lives, it's sort of dangerous for us to be there, and we got to defend ourselves.
And it's when it gets back all the way back to the town drunk again. I didn't want to happen to somebody else by Glagg what happened to him. I didn't want, somebody to say, Sasquatch did this, or a Sasquatch attacked me and, destroyed my rifle or my gun, or just walking through the forest hunting and this thing ran up and grabbed my gun, or, did something. I didn't want that, to be attached to him. I wanted people to leave him alone, just forget about him. And hopefully he'd just avoid those situations also. I didn't want, because eventually if he would do that, they would hunt him down.
Yes, indeed. Well, they'd at the very least be wondering what was happening to people. And just to make it clear to everybody, the quote-unquote town drunk who got squished by a tree that got pushed over on his tent by Bigfoot, according to him, that happened up on toward the Montana side where the crabby Sasquatch are.
Yes.
Okay.
Now it's quite a ways away from where I was with Glagg. Yeah, I mean, all the way across the valley.
Yeah, big valley filled with humans. So a natural barrier between different troops of Bigfoot, probably with different behaviors, maybe even different sub-varieties. So.
And then when we moved it further back into the backcountry, that got us even farther away. It was the opposite direction. That was to the east, and we moved him due west.
So speaking about having him way back out in the backcountry now, tell us about your scariest experience ever.
Oh, man. Hold on. It still gets to me. This is, something that every once in a while still have nightmares about. So you'll have to bear with me, please. Like I said before, where we stayed was not his home. That was our vacation home. That was his vacation home. Was when I'd come up, that's where we stayed, was like the vacation home. Not a house, like but, that area.
Campground where you guys would have your meeting place at.
Yes, which I think is the reason he picked that place, is it was safe.
Right.
And I didn't realize, but back where he was at was probably, he recognized that it wasn't that safe for me back there. Uh-oh. And I think it's because he was closer to more of his kind, which I didn't realize at the time, but I think he was having more and more interactions with them, but not getting beat up like he was before we moved him. And I think it was pretty good. I hope at least he wasn't beat up, whether that's the interaction was all right or he was tough enough to take care of himself. And either way, I was fine with it. I'm fine with it. If he had to beat the snot out of all the other ones to prove that he's going to stay there whether they like it or not, that's fine with me. Or if they accepted him, that's cool too. That's what I always wanted, was him to be able to get back in with, like you said, like I think we mentioned a long time ago, the born free thing. I wasn't trying to do that, but that was my hope, was knowing that I'm not going to live there my entire life. I wanted him to be able to integrate back into Bigfoot society.
Right.
And when we finally went back in, we had stayed the night where we had always met and where we always hung out and where we had a lot of fun for probably 5 or 6 months. Had a lot of fun. Just hanging out.
As last episode.
Yes. And so it was getting late, and I figured that he wanted to stay the night because he wanted a fire and wanted to stay the night. And then at the ass crack in the AM, right as the sun was about to come up, is when he started making the noise and, woke me up. And then, he'd say, "Let's go." He said, "Let's go." And I'm like, "Yeah, great. Let me wake up." And he's like, "Let's go." And he knew that it was going to be a long, long way, but I didn't. I just thought it was maybe over the hill. But no, right at the dawn, we started walking, and about 4 hours later, it's when he actually picked me up and carried me and then could move faster. And we got to, and I couldn't tell you where it was, moving so fast, I couldn't tell you I could show you a general area, but I don't exactly know exactly where he went because it's moving so fast and covering so much ground.
Yeah.
But then that's where I saw, where he was at was a nice cave, an actual cave that was natural and then also adjusted by him, dug out more. And it was nice. It was back in there, I'd say probably 35, 40 feet, maybe 50 feet back in, and had a nice opening back there and nice deep in. And it was probably very cool in the summer and very warm in the winter.
Nice.
And that, again, if he didn't show me where it was, I would have never found it. I would have never found the opening. It was that well hidden. But I noticed, that's the first time I started noticing a smell, was when we got there. And it was, I recognized it as a Glagg smell, just a very potent Glagg smell.
He's developing his Glagg sting.
His man musk or whatever, but it wasn't overpowering and bad like a lot of people report it smelling. I could tell that that's where he was, and when I'm not there, he's not bathing, and it's like, I even mentioned that, Glagg, are you taking a bath when I'm not around? And no. But like, how are you ever going to get a woman when you smell like that? Man, dude, you need to wash your blankets. But remember, they still had the wool blankets down in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then just looking around, and it was a beautiful area. It was forested, just a small little clearing, not, more than 40, 50 feet, but not too far away was a spring where it come up out of the ground, probably 300-400 yards uphill from where he was. Just a nice little area, and just, I can see why he picked it. It was beautiful.
Oh yeah, it sounds awesome.
There was firewood and a spot picked out for a fire, and it had looked like it had been made a long time ago. But so I could tell that he wanted me to come back there, but just was never comfortable doing it. He had a spot for a fire ready, and it looked like it had been ready for a long time, probably weeks or months. But it had a supply of firewood already there, the twigs and sticks and, the small little logs, which, it's that I realized now that he had, back then I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think like I'm thinking now, but I realized he wanted to take me back in there a long time before, but never felt comfortable doing it. And and he was on edge, not towards me. He was just always
alert. The head twitching around like a little bird.
Yeah, extremely alert. And when he had sat down, I did light a fire. And he was, man, he liked it. He wanted the fire bad, but then it made him extremely nervous. And, again, I didn't think anything of it. And, holy cow. And it was, the sun had went down, and I just, talking like me and you are now, just talking to my buddy, and, he'd get up and he'd walk around, and he'd walk to the edge of the clearing, and it's like, what are you doing? You want me to read or what? And he's just kind of really not paying attention. He'd mumble, acknowledgement, but I knew he wasn't paying attention to me almost nearly at all, which struck me as odd, but, I'm a kid, not realizing what was going on. And looking back on it, I realized that there wasn't a sound other than the fire crackling when he got up and started walking around and looking. I realized that now.
This was going on. You're like, what, senior high school?
Yeah, it's probably 16 or 17, right in there. 17, I believe. Before or after my 17th birthday. It might have been right after, but it might have been right before. But the sun had went down. It was black. It was pitch black. other than the fire. And the moon wasn't up yet, if it even came up at all. I don't recall that night because of what happened. Me just carrying on like normal, just still thinking it's a cool place. And, man, I started asking him, how far back in here was it? And then realized, well, he didn't really know. But, man, he walked forever. And then after he picked me up, we covered some ground. I mean, I can't even venture a guess, maybe 15 miles, land miles over, over stuff and through ravines, and you covered some ground quick. And it was a long way. Remember, right at the first of the morning, and we got there in late afternoon.
Wow. Okay.
But
yeah, so was he going at a run like, his Bigfoot hold on tight speed where he's probably doing 40, 45 miles an hour? Or?
Yeah, no, he wasn't. He wasn't at a dead run, but he was moving. He wasn't. It'd be kind of like a trot.
Okay, so 30.
Yep. And as I'm just talking and sitting by the fire, and he's pacing around and listening. Oh man.
No starlight or anything. That's spooky.
Yeah. It would back where we were, and the fire was in the clearing, but right on the edge of it. I made sure there wasn't any branches or tree stuff above us, but it was just a dark night, and with the firelight I couldn't see the stars. If I could have at all, from where the trees and the canopy was. I didn't realize where the canopy was before the sun went down, so no, I couldn't see stars. The only light that I had was the fire.
The fire, which was probably unless you're enclosed in a little valley that had walls on all sides, that would have been fairly obvious.
Yep. I'm sure you could see that forever. But I'd say it was about probably 11:30. It had been a good while after the sun had went down. I'd say probably getting close to midnight. As I'm talking to him and asking him to come sit back down, and ask him if he's tired, if he wants to go lay down and me to read a story. Just like a shot. He'd come across the clearing right at me, and it actually startled me, and I looked up, and he come at me with this look on his face that was terrifying to me. It scared the crap out of me, and because I didn't know what was going on. Just all of a sudden, here he comes, and just in a half a second, he's from 45 to 50 feet away. He's right there at me. He grabs me by the left arm, and up the closest tree, a big Doug fir tree, he dragged me by the by the left arm up the tree, and he went up as far as he could get, and then he grabbed me, lifted me up above him, grabbed me by my butt and pushed me up in even higher. And the thing that was really freaky and terrifying was when he grabbed my arm and went up the tree, he was saying, "Hide, hide, hide, hide," the whole time he went up the tree with me. And that, to me, is something that we only did in a game. And to see the fear and hear the fear in his voice and see how terrified he was. I mean, just, you remember when he was talking and he'd get excited, he'd talk real fast. It was hide, 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 hide the whole time we went up the tree. And it wasn't, 3 or 4 seconds that I was 45, 50 foot up, all the way up in the top of this tree, and him trying to push me up higher. And then
he got you up there. He got you on a branch. Then what?
He started back down. He got about halfway down the tree, and then he comes right back up and looks right in my face and asks, "Gun?"
Oh, shit.
And I said, "Yeah, it's right there on my hip, Glagg. What's going on?" And he said, "Hide, hide, gun, hide." And back down the tree went, and just the fastest I'd ever seen him move, he was gone. Right back, where he was at the edge of the clearing, where he came over to me. and grabbed me by the arm and run me up the tree. Now, he yanked my arm out of socket when we went up the tree, and it hurt. I mean, it was excruciating, but I was too terrified to even make a sound. I was scared to, it's terrified. At first it was because of the look on his face. I'm like, oh crap, what's the matter? Because here he comes right at me with this look I'd never seen before.
Well, and then describe the look. What did it look like to you?
Fear. It's hard to explain. It was a terrifying look. It was scary because I recognize it now as he was afraid, but it could have been interpreted as anger. If I didn't know him, because I knew my buddy. It's just I interpreted it when he grabbed me by the arm, and because when he turned around and bolted towards me, I heard him saying something, but I didn't know what it was. And it wasn't until we got up the tree that I realized the whole time what he was saying was hide, 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 hide. And when we got up the tree, and then when he went down the tree, he got halfway down the tree in a heartbeat, and then came right back up and got right up next to my face and asked me, gun. And it's like, yeah, it's right here. And he says, he says, hide, gun, hide, 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 and wanting me to go up higher, but I couldn't. I was up in the top of that tree, maybe 60 feet. It was a big tree, and he'd run me right up to the top. And now my left shoulder is out of socket. Here I am, 220 pounds, and he drug me up the tree by my wrist and bounced me off branches.
Really,
it wasn't
really hoping that I bet you're really hoping that he comes back from whatever he's about to do.
Yeah, because I'm holding on up there. I found a good place, a branch that I could straddle, and got my legs locked in. But I trying to make that was terrible. Trying to make myself look like the tree, which wasn't working, and it felt like a sore thumb sticking out there. But at that time, I smelled it. I smelled that awful, overpowering, overwhelming stink. And it came from him, and I think it was fear. It's why that came out. But I didn't realize it until he went down the second time and then hit the bottom of the tree. That's when I realized that, holy crap, I can hardly breathe. First off, I'm probably in shock. Second off, I'm in incredible pain. Third off, I can hardly breathe because I am gagging because the air is noxious. And then, he got out of the clearing, and I heard him moving. He was moving. That's when it sounded like a bulldozer, like 3 freight trains going through the tree.
He wasn't trying to be quiet moving through the trees. Did you have any preliminaries at all that there was something over there? I mean, what do you think he must have got it by scent or something, because it doesn't sound like you heard anything.
Well, that's where I was not paying attention to anything. I just thought it was cool that he brought me back here and doing my normal thing. I lit the fire, sitting by it, kept talking to him. And in hindsight, I realized that he wasn't comfortable. Then from the second we got there, he was on alert. And then when he got up and left the fire and started walking and pacing around, it's like I said, now I realized that there wasn't a sound other than the fire crackling.
Uh-oh.
For probably 25, 30 minutes.
Uh-oh.
And, that's just me just being off in la-la land, not paying attention to what was going on. In him, I'm sure in his head, he was like, shut up, you idiot. Don't you see that, look at all the signs. But now I realize that when he kept looking at me, I thought it was because I was asking him, do you want to read or you want to go lay down? And he's looking at me like, now I interpret it as, shut up.
Don't you know that they're here or something like that?
Yeah. Now, he run a ways. I know it wasn't, right on the edge of the clearing. I heard him moving quite a quite a distance away. I couldn't tell you how far, but I still heard it. And then I heard a roar. And then I heard no, but this is the part that gets me. I heard Glagg scream no twice. And then all hell broke loose. Yeah, I could tell that I heard what I thought was at least two other ones in Glagg fighting. Sorry. It just got to me when he...
What kind of sounds were they making? Was it T-Rex roaring, or was it sound like angry language, or what kind of noise were they making?
There was some of the angry language in there, and then it was just ungodly roars, and sounded like a tornado going through the forest. You know, but hearing no that loud, that far away, knowing that it's him, it was terrifying. And it went on for, yeah, there's more than one on him, and that just scared the crap out of me. Not only I didn't give a crap about me. I was invincible. I had a gun. I could take care of myself. I was worried about my buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And the thought never crossed my mind. If they do anything to him and they come after me, I'm going to kill them all. Not knowing that, I don't know how I would have held my gun. You know, I always braced my right arm with my left arm. My left arm's out of socket. I'm up in a tree. Got a 357 Magnum that I probably ain't going to be able to hang on to after I pull the trigger the first time. But no thought whatsoever for me. There's no way to explain how terrifying that was. You know, how scared I was for him. It just went on and on and on. But it seemed like hours. This ungodly noise of the worst fight you've ever heard. Like I said, I don't know how long it was. I know it was a long time, and finally, eventually, it stopped. And then,
so
after that,
at least a few minutes of combat, no question that it was at least that long. We're not talking about seconds or something. We're talking more like TV 15, WWE match length.
Yeah, world championship match that lasts 25 minutes or more because they keep dragging it on for the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And as far away as they were, you could tell when somebody was getting hit, when it was connecting, you know, a fist or a, you know, when one of them was getting, you know, pummeled by the other one. And I didn't know who was which. I couldn't tell what was going on. All I knew that he was outnumbered at least 2-1. And then when it all stopped and went silent, 25, 30 seconds after it quit, then there's another ungodly roar. Just, I mean, from as far away as it was, it rattled my insides. And that's when it's like, crap, or now are they going to come after me?
You couldn't tell who made the roar?
No, after he left the clearing, I couldn't tell what was what. All I knew is that he was the one that yelled no. Yeah,
because the other ones don't speak English.
Yeah. Or if they did, I'd never heard it, but I assumed it was Glagg boys. They yelled no twice, and then it just, on the tornado went. And it just took forever. It's like, please, God, just let it end. Sorry about that.
Sasquatch thugs trying to go all thug on your buddy. Well, so after like, a good 15, 20 minutes maybe is what it sounds like, which would be like way too long to have to sit through and listen to. So you figure at that point that he must have been the one and let out the big roar.
I don't know who let out the roar at the end of it. That actually was pretty scary because I didn't know who it was, and if that's not Glagg, then crap. How am I? That's what started going through my head. If he didn't win, which I don't see how he could.
Yeah, 2-on-1. Of course, he's cheating because he had a human martial arts trainer teaching him.
Thank God. And about a few minutes after that, he came back into the clearing. He was beat to shit, but he's there. He's covered in blood. I didn't know it until I got down out of the tree, but he's covered in blood.
Was he able to come back up the tree and help you get out of it, or did you have to actually?
No, he sat down on the ground at the bottom, and I worked my way down. It took me quite a while. And all I could do was give him a hug and just started crying on him. You know what the cool thing was? I don't think very much of it was his blood.
That's good.
Found that out later.
So he didn't have like lots of big bite marks all over him or something?
Well, he was tore up good, but I think the blood that was on him was splatters from the other ones.
They might have been in for a bit of a surprise the first time he gave him a nice right cross to the face.
That's what I'm hoping. And he was beat up, but I think he gave more than he got. A lot more, especially because now what I know now, that roar at the end was, you'd leave and get out of here. And don't come back, leave me alone, leave my human alone.
Yeah. Or the territorial roar, I just whooped your ass as this is my territory, don't come back,
yeah.
It's more of the same.
And I hope, and plus with him being as young as he was, and then that happening, it's probably going to be, I don't know, I'd see that, I don't know, that's what I'd like to talk to Kat. Was it other ones his age trying to come and bully him around, or was they coming after me, or that I have no idea. That's something that our communication I couldn't get. All I know is that
you'll get to ask her.
Was it an older one? Was it older ones coming to discipline him or what? But I know
you don't know unless you see him though. It's all going to be guesswork anyway.
But I know that he got in a fight with at least 2 other Sasquatch because of me.
That seems fairly apparent, judging by his hyper-agitated state and what else was going on there. It's like he knew they were around the area, and if he lit that fire or even had you back there was a chance they were going to show up and not be digging it.
Yep.
And he was willing to take that risk anyway. And, maybe he was like trying to push the envelope. Well, screw you guys. I'm going to have my human back here if I want. What are you going to do about it?
And the only thing I can't even speculate what happened. I know he got beat up, but I hope like hell that he beat the snot. I hope, don't want to sound, I hope he killed one of them or both of them. Whether that sounds right or not, but you got to remember that was my buddy that they were doing that to, and he was protecting me. Hopefully, what I taught him was what gave him the edge, because I don't know. I don't want to speculate.
At least one of them, yeah. I hope he got to a keto throw at least one of them through a tree. I really hope.
I hope he put haymaker right in the jaw of one of them and shattered it.
Well, as strong as they are, and you taught them how to do a haymaker, yeah, well, you could shatter a bull's jaw.
A closed fist?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Probably
I'm sorry, I guess it just, think about me being up there with a dislocated shoulder and knowing that my best friend in the whole world is going
I'm sure
through
you didn't
that.
think that far at the time or anything, but if something had happened to him and he hadn't come back, well, now you're there with one arm, no way to get out, got to climb down out of this huge tree and fight your way through hostile Sasquatch-infested territory for 20 miles or so to even get back to where your bike is.
Well, see, and that's the thing is what was so terrifying and why it still haunts me is I did think about that. I don't know where I'm at.
Yeah.
Nobody knows where to even start to come and look for me.
Yeah. No such thing as GPS.
No. And no such thing as looking infrared either. Not that we knew about at the time.
Yeah.
When I am way back in there, that I knew the general direction to go to get out of there, but with my injury then, would I have made it out? With all the best circumstances, no predators, no other Sasquatch, could I have physically made it out? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's even if you knew which direction to go, you might not have been able to make it out, and the chance that you knew which direction to go is pretty slim too.
Yep. Well, I knew which direction we came in, but still, I had that direction. I wasn't paying close enough attention because of how fast we were going.
Well, it's some of those trails and stuff in the mountains, and this is as good as a mile. If you're talking about 20 miles, it's generally in that direction. Well, yeah, you can miss the trail by a mile and end up 30 miles in the wrong direction.
And where we came in might have been around the bend, and where we actually came from was back the opposite direction that we came in from. So I said I thought I knew what direction we came into the clearing, but I didn't pay enough attention to know how to get back out of there. Trust me, that went through my mind. And that's one of the things that made it even more terrifying being up there.
Yeah, because if something happens to your buddy, you are totally screwed at that point. He had to, and maybe he realized that. I bet he realized that he hurt you when he put you up in the tree, and that freaked him out even more.
Yeah, and hopefully all of that together is what gave him an advantage. Always when you back somebody into a corner, watch out. When you scare somebody, and I know he was scared, so was I. And then that.
So you spent the rest of the night there, then obviously.
Yeah, that made me love him that much more, knowing that. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yep, he saved your life. Well, you saved his life in a way, and he saved your life directly. So that was
physically, yes, and I'm glad that I didn't get to see it. I don't think I could have handled. And the sounds were ungodly enough, and there's unless you witness a Sasquatch fight, there's no way for me to explain to you the sound. The sound was just, deafening, and it was so far away. But the roars were making my insides vibrate when they'd roar. It just
sounded like a scene from Jurassic Park going on right over the top of the ridge or something.
It just, the worst, from start to finish, probably 35, 40 minutes of my life.
Jesus.
It wasn't, after it ended, he didn't come right back. It was still about 10, 15 minutes after that roar at the end and that he came back. And I think it's just because he was walking slow and he was that far away. And that's still, every once in a while, I'll wake up in a cold sweat because of that.
So you guys were then, of course, stuck spending the night there. I don't think that, well, tell me, he didn't pick you up and try and carry you out that night, did he?
No. And then, me being concerned for him and seeing him covered in blood, and he was more concerned about my arm than anything, which, tell me it's just an animal.
Oh. No.
When the compassion, that knowing that I got hurt when he put me up there, and then that the only thing that he was focused on the rest of the night was, trying to take care of me, and not knowing what to do. I didn't know what to do. Now that shoulder pops out still to this day, and I can set it again.
Run into a tree and smash your shoulder into it. There, problem solved.
Yeah, well, back up to the corner of a wall or a tree, and I can pop it back in by myself. Now I've learned how, but that shoulder's been jacked up ever since. I can actually pop it out right now as we speak.
Well, that's scary.
So
you guys end up going back the next day then, or how much longer were you there?
Yeah, ass crack of dawn, we went back, and I didn't walk maybe 10 feet. He picked me up and carried me gentle like a baby all the way back. And then me trying my best to help him get cleaned up. One arm with, trying to wash him up, handful by handful. The clumps of hair gone, and just, you can tell he'd been in it.
Yeah, much in the way of lacerations, or was it mostly all bruises and stuff like what you'd seen in previous fights? Yeah,
but, he was cut up a little bit, but like I said, I think most of the blood wasn't his. Got him his brown belt that day.
The brown belt says good. Oh my God, dude! So it took him probably the better part of the day to get you back out to the cycle, and then from there you had to try and make it back one-armed riding a friggin' motorcycle. What the hell?
Yeah. Well, it had. I don't know if it happened when I was asleep or what, but it did go back into socket, and I think I might have rolled over on it, but it had caught something because, man, it hurt bad underneath. But yeah, that's a trick, riding back as far back as I was in and how far I was on deer trails.
God.
Yeah, it was a trick. I didn't get back, when I stayed another night there, where we normally stay, camp. And then, and then the next morning I went back, and I didn't get home till late at night.
Wow.
And I tried to explain to him that, buddy, I'm not going to be able to come back. I'm hurt bad, and I'm hurt real bad. And it was about a month before I was physically able to get back up there again.
When you showed back up again at the meeting place, did you actually have, obviously you didn't have any sort of time plan for him to meet you there?
Nope. He was there.
Heard your motorcycle coming, probably?
Yep, probably.
Unreal. Well, how was he acting when you came back a month later?
It was just like we always did, just Christmas Day. He's happy to see me.
Yeah. Happy, joy. Happy, joy.
Yeah. And the initial hug was excruciatingly painful.
God.
They were painful enough on when I'm totally healthy.
Yeah, right.
Talk about a bear hug. I don't think a bear can hug like that.
There's a story about some hunters that were coming back from town, and they were like 3-4 miles away, and they were following the course of the river, and they heard this horrible noise happening, and came up on it. They figured there was a couple of grizzlies beating the living snot out of each other. One of the voices sounded wrong, and they got up close enough to see what was going on. It was on the other side of the river. There was a Sasquatch and this huge brown bear beating the living snot out of each other. And, it took them a little bit to figure out what the other critter that was fighting the bear was, because they could figure it right away. They could tell the bear was the bear. But what's that other thing? And after it tussled around a little bit, they got a better look at it. They realized, well, this is one of those local Sasquatch things they talk about. And they quickly decided amongst themselves that if it looked like the bear was going to win, they were all going to shoot the bear so the Sasquatch would win. But if it turned out the Sasquatch didn't need any help, he polished the bear off pretty easily by himself.
Man, yeah, I can't imagine. I'm glad I didn't get to see that fight because I probably would have tried to help.
Well, apparently, according to what these gentlemen that saw this said, it terrified them so bad they didn't even talk about it for a couple of years. And there wasn't just one lone guy seeing it. There was like 3 of them that saw it going on. It scared the living hell out of them.
Now, just imagine 2 Sasquatch going at it.
Yeah, imagine 2 of them fighting against
3.
another one. Yeah, or 3. You don't even know. You know, you're guessing there's more than one voice in addition to his making the racket over there. But beyond that, they could have had like seconds sitting in the tree line waiting for them to get their butts whipped and then jump in and take their place. You don't know how many was fighting.
Yeah, I don't. But I know I heard 2 distinct other voices for sure. And it could have been more. But remember, at the time that all this is going on, I am on the verge of blacking out from pain too.
God. And
knowing that I can't black out, because if I black out, I'm probably going to fall out of this tree and that's going to kill me.
Get killed. Yeah, exactly. Man, bad situation to be in.
Just all around, and it just, I think the fear is what kept me awake and up in there. You know, and it just.
So now that we hit the high/low point of the beginning of the 3rd year, do we have enough time on this recording to continue on from there and get like all the way up to the end of year 3 and the beginning of year 4?
Well, we can. Not much happened other than just whenever I'd go up, we just had fun again, and I didn't ask to go back in there.
Right, you just go to the camp and not go back.
Yeah. And it wasn't until probably about the next year that he wanted me to go back in there. So I knew that it was, he didn't show any reservations. He actually wanted me to go back in there with him.
Yeah, he had actually whooped their butts completely out of the area, so he wasn't worried about it anymore. Yep. Okay, well, so by the end of that, so this is like beginning of the 4th year then. He's how much bigger? Like we said at the beginning, when you first met him, he was 6'6", 350. How big is he by the beginning of year 4?
The night of that fight, he was probably 8, a little over 8, maybe 8.5. And I couldn't even venture a guess on weight. He was massive. He was huge, probably 850, 900 pounds. And when I'd piggyback on him, it wasn't because it was a rough ride. It was how to hang on, because there's no way I could stretch my legs over to wrap around him. They're just too wide.
Yeah.
And there's not a neck to hold on around like on a human. You know how you wrap your arms around the neck? It's just putting my arms over his shoulders and just, locking them on and just, flexing and keeping them in like these U shapes, just hanging on that way, not really holding on to anything, but.
Right. You're like a backpack without straps. You can just go flying off it.
Yeah, it's just two hooks up on that hang up over on his shoulders.
Yeah, exactly. I was kind of picturing one of those ladders that they have to go into the swimming pools that have a little hook thing that cuts over the top.
Yep, exactly. That's what that was me on his back. I was the monkey on his back.
Jiggle that around very much and you dislodge it. And how often does a human get to be a monkey on a Bigfoot's back? That's kind of out of the ordinary. Hey, I got a human backpack. Check out the new accessory.
Yep.
That's probably
you got to feed this one every once in a while.
Yeah, that's why the other Bigfoot went after him. They were all jealous because he was the only one that had a human backpack.
They had a Kevin pack.
That's it. It's like the other ones down there down in the Navajo lands that are all jealous of the Cookie Monster because he's got the Cookie Bowl. None of the rest of them do. It's the ultimate trophy of that area of the country, the Cookie Bowl.
I wonder if it was Tupperware or steel.
I'm not sure that detail has ever come out. I'll let Caveman research it. We really definitely need to know exactly what kind of material and what size that cookie bowl was.
Was it glass or, like the aluminum, or was it a Tupperware?
Yeah, we want to know exactly what kind so that we can get one to come and steal our cookie bowl full of cookies and get it on camera. Especially, we might be able to get the same one to do it. But, man, you know, that's like a whole lot of Incredible Hulk on your butt. So whatever was challenging him, man, they must have been some big, bad dudes to go after a, you know, 8.5 foot, 800 pound, God.
I think that's why there was more than one of them. And hopefully it's because of how well I fed him that first year. Is why I got so big. I hope that's why. I hope all of that, him getting massive like that, was all because of me. I really do. Giving him the good nutrition. So much so that the other Sasquatch have to gang up on him 2 or 3 on 1 because they're afraid of him. That's my ego speaking.
Hey, even if he was littler than them, you taught him Aikido. He could flip them through a tree.
Well, and yeah, and I hope that's what won it for him, was what he had been taught.
I know you haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but wait until you hear the new episode that Kat talks about. And I mentioned you teaching Glagg how to do martial arts and Aikido and everything. She's very well acquainted with martial arts. And I started laughing about it, and she goes, actually, that's one of the best things that he could have taught him, because that's how the males fight with each other. They wrestle, and they try and throw each other. And, like, he had taught him all of these mechanical, super specific ways of throwing that they'll never figure out on their own.
Using their body weight against them.
Yeah, exactly. So that you can, like, oh, forget it. If they're bigger, that puts them at a disadvantage because you've got, you know, the lower fulcrum makes it easier to throw somebody taller. So, yeah, if a mountain giant came up and tried to mug him, that'd be even easier for him to wipe out. He could flip him down a mountainside.
Yep. And plus, I also got him the mechanics of a good punch, too.
Oh, God, yeah. Like I told Kat, you could probably stop a semi with something like that. So I can only imagine what I would do to another Bigfoot's face, even if he was big and bad Bigfoot. There's only so much damage you can take, and that would be an awful lot. Well,
can you imagine? That's why I say I hope that opening punch broke the jaw of one of them. I really hope. No, that's something that he wouldn't relay, and that's something that he didn't want to talk about either.
He never talked to you about that fight at all?
He didn't want to talk about it. Like I said, he was more concerned about my arm than he was about him or that fight, and it was terrifying enough to me as it was. I did want to know what happened, but he just never went into it. Not like we can discuss it like we did. It's just, you know, it's like, what happened? Why did they do that? And he just wouldn't acknowledge the subject.
Did you manage to get him to at least say if it was it other Bigfoot like him and not something else like Dugwees or some damn thing?
That I never got that. See, that is something I didn't know about. The other, I didn't know as much as I know now. I didn't know about the other. I didn't know about the bad ones like that. That there were actually the
and
other
they're not
species
common.
of her.
By no means are they common.
And I don't think they would have been hanging out, a couple of them together.
Right. No, they traveled around in packs, apparently. So if they're out hunting or something, there's going to be several of them, not just like 2. The only time you'd run into lone individuals, according to Kat, would be like if it was scouts.
Yeah. Oh, mercy.
So maybe he ran into a couple scouts and he had to beat their butts. And then they went and reported back to the big Gugly. No, don't go over there. There's some kind of kung fu Bigfoot. He whooped our asses. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he threw Gorg through a tree and he punched all my teeth out. I'm not going back over there.
I have to eat soup through a reed.
I'll be eating skunk cabbage and slugs for the rest of my life. I'm not going back.
Yep.
Oh, my God. Well, you are so lucky you survived that, and you're so lucky that you had a good friend like Glagg that was willing to apparently risk his own life quite a bit to make sure.
Yeah, well, and that's why it gets to me so much when it starts getting emotional about it. It's because I know Eddie is my best friend, and I know that night he put his life on the line for me. I don't know many humans that would do that for you. You know, it was hard. You don't understand how difficult that night was to hear that going on and being defenseless to help him.
Yeah.
just heartbreaking to hear it going on and terrifying at the same time. And, the whole situation, I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
Yeah, that would be super scary. Like, I'm just trying to picture, like, what would it sound like having, 2 or 3 T-Rexes fighting just, like, right over the hill, knocking trees down, roaring. Yeah. Only there would be the punching sounds and stuff like you were hearing. But, oh, my God, that would terrify me. So one more thing before we... Did you still want to say something?
Well, it's just, I could tell when there was a thud of when some type of hit connected from whoever it was. There was this dull, it was a hard to listen to thud that I could tell was, somebody took a hard hit from another one. I don't know if it was a punch or a hammer. Yeah, but I could tell, and those were happening all the time, and it just. No, man, I wish that night could go away. And it doesn't. It keeps coming back, especially on a night like tonight when I've never actually told that whole thing before. And it's what got to me the way it did, because it happened again in my head.
Yep, I know that feeling. You can sort of have this distant view of the whole thing and sort of remember it, but when you actually have to go through it and tell it detail by detail, it all comes rushing back, along with all the emotions you're experiencing when it happened. And, like with 2 of my encounters, that's not at all pleasant. I don't enjoy talking about them.
So, I didn't either, but I think it's something that people need to hear about, to think about what he did for me, a human.
Yep.
And tell me that that's an animal.
No.
Your dog.
Yeah, it's a trained animal. It's just like a Russian dancing bear. Not one that can talk.
Now your best friend, your dog would do that.
Yep.
But your dog wouldn't come back and, you know what I mean? Yes, You're a loyal companion like a dog would do the same thing, but this is more than that. It was not instinct like, a dog. It was, he made the decision, a conscious decision. It was not, just pure instinct. It was a decision that he made to protect me. That shows cognitive thought.
Yeah, well, obviously he's a thinking critter. You've been having conversations with him. But that he, actually... The same thing Kat was talking about in the show you haven't listened to yet. When he grabbed you and hauled you up that tree, he was so concerned about your safety he didn't even realize that he actually hurt you in the process of trying to get you to safety. All he could think about was getting you to a place that was safer and hide. And then, oh, by the way, got your gun? Okay, good.
Yep.
It wasn't go attack the bad guys first. It was save my buddy, then go attack the bad guys.
Yeah. And that's what got me is when he come back up. That's why we went over the gun thing first. When he went down the tree and then came back up to make sure I had my gun with me. That is what terrified me. To know that he wanted me to have my gun ready was terrifying.
Well, at least that's a testament to how well you got across the concept that you needed that as a tool to defend yourself in bad situations.
Yeah.
And probably for the first time in his life, he was actually relieved you had a gun with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised as much as you got him to actually hold on to one and stuff and look at it a few times that he never, as curious as he was, ever tried to figure out how to actually shoot one.
We tried. No. Yep. I would have had to cut the trigger guard off for him to shoot it. And I actually thought about cutting the trigger off of that 410, but then, it not kicking that hard, preparing him for the kick would something I didn't want to try to go into.
Oh, God, with his strength, he wouldn't even notice it.
I know, but still,
he wouldn't even kick.
But still, that was me being a kid thinking, when he does that and it kicks him, is he going to smash it? And then luckily I didn't have any way to cut a trigger guard off while I was up there. Or else we probably,
it's probably better, or people's hunting rifles would be disappearing from camp. And You know,
Yep.
since he couldn't figure out the ammunition thing or do it with his huge fingers, that he'd have to just keep getting rifles that were loaded.
Yeah,
all
get
the
another
time.
one that's already loaded.
And he'd be like, "This is the weirdest place I go hunting, and the rifles disappear. Nothing else ever happens. Just sometimes you find huge tracks, but the rifles disappear."
and it looks like something ripped the trigger guard off.
They ripped the trigger guard off. I know one of my friends the other day was asking me about talking to you about him trying to use fire, and they couldn't figure out why he couldn't get it. And I'm like, look, let's put it this way. Take a baseball catcher's mitt, put it on your right hand. Take a baseball catcher's mitt, put it on your left hand. Now light a match.
Try to strike a bit.
Yeah,
or a match.
Either one.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's kind of hard to hit that striker on a bic when your finger is bigger than the lighter.
Yeah, substantially. Like Kat says, when she grabs onto Quijos's thumb, that's her whole hand. It barely goes around his thumb.
Yes, exactly. And that was me. I never held hands with Glagg. I held finger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what she does with him. She grabs onto his thumb.
Yep. And now just think of the strength of it. Is here I am, 220, 225, somewhere in there, and he grabs me by the wrist and yanks me up a tree and goes up a tree 45, 50 feet in 2-3 seconds. Yes, he can climb a tree. And me only doing it one-handed because he's got me in the other hand.
Yeah, that's scary, dude. That is scary. Okay, so one more thing before we go here. Now, between that, which was like beginning of third year, and beginning of fourth year, a year after the fight, how much bigger was he at that point?
He was, the last time I saw him, he was, I know people want to know that, he was right at, I'd say, topping out at 9 foot and 1400.
Okay. So, like, between, like, the last year that you were hanging around with him, he wasn't growing as fast as he had been previously?
No.
So
he was just putting on massive weight. Yeah,
right.
He wasn't growing, height-wise, but, man, he was still tanking up.
Yeah. Well, you may be right. He may have been closer to your actual chronological age than we were thinking, considering that it sounds like he was pretty much, that's a good marker for most mammals. When they get closer to being full adult size, the growth slows down.
It might have just been...
He still could have got quite a bit bigger and ended up, 10, 11 feet tall. Yeah. But it just would have taken quite a lot longer to do it.
Yeah. And I think hopefully he did, but... because I wanted him to be the biggest, toughest Sasquatch in the mountains. And helping and knowing...
Had a human trainer. His Mr. Miyagi was Kevin.
Yeah. And having the ability to put the hurt on somebody, even if he wasn't the biggest, would make... I hope that the word got around after that night to leave Glagg alone. Don't mess with Glagg.
Yeah, I bet it did. Yeah.
And, he's got a human friend, and that's fine because you don't want to get the hurt put to you if you threaten his human friend.
Yeah, if you go after his human friend, he's liable to punch your face in or something.
Yeah, forget the dog. Beware of Sasquatch.
Yeah, exactly. And who cares about dogs when you got Sasquatch protecting you? You got the best protection there is.
Yeah.
We'll rip your head off and throw your remains in a ditch.
And that it was after that night, though, it was back to, having fun with my buddy again. But that took a long time to get over. That still, now, going back up, I was always looking over my shoulder. I mean, more so than, I was more cautious just riding up there when he wasn't around.
Right.
Just, I didn't feel comfortable without him.
If one of them decided to start following you or something, you wouldn't hear him, and he could actually keep up with your motorcycle.
Yep, especially back in there. It wouldn't be till I got to one of the better roads that I could outdistance him.
Yep. Yeah, you get down
and on my DT-175, I couldn't get out in front of him. You could almost run faster than that stinking thing would go.
Yep. Yeah, that's God.
But that's the one that he always recognized. That's the one that I always rode up there when I could ride a bike with that old crap.
You can hear that sound. Oh, here comes Kevin on his motorcycle.
Well, and it's because that one had the resonator on it got plugged up, so I had to cut that off and just run a straight piece of pipe. So it was loud.
Yeah, so you could probably hear you 5-6 miles away when you're
Yep.
echoing through the canyons. Oh, here comes Kevin. I better hurry up. I got only about an hour or so until he gets near here.
Exactly. He's got about a mile. I've got 16 to go. I'll be getting there about the same time. I'll be waiting for him for 10 minutes.
Exactly. All right, brother. Well, I think we're going to have to close her out here, and next episode will be the last part of the Glagg saga.
Glagg saga. Because the last one will be, because it was after this, the rest of that year, and then it was me off to school, and I didn't see him much after that until that fall. It was that next fall that I haven't seen him since.
Right.
Until the next one, we can close it out.
And in the meantime, if there's any more questions that you guys have that we didn't already cover or anything, make sure to post those in the comment section, and we'll get them on the last episode. And there's going to be an episode after that. I haven't decided yet if I actually want to try and do a live call-in show or if I'm just going to do a Q&A show. But as we already alluded to earlier, it's not going to be fans Q&A so much. It's actually going to be Kat and Kevin and possibly even Taylor all having a roundtable discussion about interacting with Bigfoot. So you definitely don't want to miss that one.
Nice.
So anyway, well, in the meantime, folks, until the next episode rolls around, be kind to each other. Always pay it forward. Safety first, last, and always. And unless he's your best friend and you just rode out to the special meeting camp on your lousy little motorcycle to meet with him,
do not hug the Wookiee.
All right, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.